The day does not begin when the sun rises. It begins when your heart awakens. Before the noise, before the demands, before the weight of expectations presses against your chest, there is a moment, fragile, sacred, and easily lost, where your soul decides who it belongs to. That moment shapes everything that follows. Not because the day will be easy, but because your heart will know where to stand when it is not. Allah says He is closer to you than your jugular vein, yet we often wake up as if we are alone. We wake up reaching for the world before reaching for the one who created it. And then we wonder why our days feel heavy, why our hearts feel rushed, why peace feels distant. The truth is, mornings are not about productivity, they are about priority. What you turn to first becomes what you trust most. There is a divine wisdom hidden in the quiet of early hours. While the world sleeps, Allah invites you, not because He needs you, but because you need Him. The soul is soft then, unguarded. This is when Tawakkul is born, when you hand your worries to Allah before they grow sharp edges. This is when you remember that your provision, your healing, your future were written long before this morning ever arrived. Pain often greets us at dawn. The ache you carry does not disappear overnight. The unanswered du'as, the waiting, the heartbreak, they all rise with you. But this is what sabr truly means. Not the absence of pain, but choosing Allah while the pain still sits in your chest. Remember, the Prophet taught us that true strength is not in control, but in restraint. And sometimes restraint is simply pausing long enough to say, Ya Allah, I trust you with this day. Allah's plan does not rush, and neither should your heart. Divine timing unfolds quietly, like light spreading across the sky. When you begin your morning in remembrance, even your delays carry mercy. Even your tests arrive with purpose. Even what hurts begins to heal, not because it changed, but because you did. This is your daily practice. Surrender before striving, dhikr before distraction, dua before despair. When you remember Allah at the start, you anchor your soul to something unshakable. And when the day shakes you, because it will, you will not fall apart. You will return again and again. Because every morning is Allah calling your heart back home. The first moments after you open your eyes are not ordinary moments. They carry a spiritual weight that most people never notice. Before the mind begins to race, before the heart remembers its worries, before the world asks anything of you, your soul stands in a quiet space between the unseen and the seen. In that space, your heart is most honest. It has not yet put on its armor. It has not yet learned how to pretend it is fine. This is why those moments matter so deeply. They are not neutral. They either soften your heart or harden it. When you wake up and immediately reach for noise, you train your soul to believe that peace comes from distraction. But when you wake up and remember Allah, even for a breath, you remind your heart of its true source of safety. Allah says that it is through His remembrance that hearts find rest, and that rest is not emotional comfort alone, it is spiritual alignment. It is the soul remembering where it came from and where it is returning. The weight of the morning is also a mercy. It reveals what you are carrying. Sometimes sadness rises first, sometimes fear, sometimes exhaustion. This is not a sign that you are broken. It is a sign that your heart is asking to be held by the one who understands it better than you do. When you turn to Allah in that raw state, your dua is not polished, but it is sincere. And sincerity is what opens doors unseen. This is what transforms ordinary mornings into sacred ones. Not perfection, not long rituals, but presence. A heart that turns to Allah before it turns away from itself. When you give Allah the first moments of your day, you are not losing time. You are reclaiming your soul from the chaos that waits outside. Intention is the quiet architect of your entire day. Long before actions take shape, before words are spoken, before choices unfold, the heart makes a decision about why is moving at all. The Prophet taught us that actions are judged by intentions. But what we often forget is that intentions also judge us. They reveal what we love, what we fear, and what we trust to carry us through the hours ahead. When you wake up without setting an intention, the world sets one for you. And the world is rarely gentle with the heart. A single intention, formed in the stillness of the morning, can transform ordinary tasks into acts of worship. When you whisper, Ya Allah, I am living this day for you, even your exhaustion becomes meaningful. Even your waiting becomes an offering. Allah does not measure your day by how much you achieve, but by how sincerely you turn to Him while achieving nothing at all. Intention realigns the soul with its purpose, reminding it that it was not created to chase validation, but to return to its Creator. There are days when your intention feels heavy, when you can barely form the words. Those are not failed mornings. Those are honest ones. Intention is not about confidence. It is about direction. Even when your heart feels scattered, choosing Allah as your direction gathers the pieces slowly, gently. This is where tawakkul begins. Not after you have a plan, but before you feel ready to face the day. Allah knows that hearts waver. That is why He does not ask for perfection, only sincerity. A heart that intends Allah may stumble, may forget, may fall back into worry, but it always knows where to return. Intention becomes a compass, pulling you back every time you drift. And with every return, something within you heals. When you set your intention in the morning, you are placing your day into Allah's care. You are acknowledging that success and failure both belong to Him. This is not surrendering effort, it is surrendering outcomes. And in that surrender, the heart finds a quiet strength. One that allows you to move through the day with less fear, less resentment, and more trust in the one who wrote your story long before you woke up. Your morning does not just begin your schedule, it reveals the state of your heart. The way you rise, the way your soul responds to a new day is a reflection of what lives inside you. When the heart is connected to Allah, the morning feels like a return. When it is distant, the morning feels like a burden. This is not because life suddenly becomes heavier at dawn, but because the heart carries what it has not healed, what it has not surrendered, what it has not placed in Allah's care. A heart anchored in Allah does not wake up fearless, it wakes up trusting. There is a difference. Fear may still be there, but it no longer defines the direction of the day. When remembrance fills the first moments, the heart remembers its true dependency. Allah says He is al-Wakil, the one who takes full care of affairs, yet we often wake up acting as if everything rests on our shoulders. A connected heart releases that weight, not by ignoring responsibility, but by remembering who truly holds control. When the heart is distant, mornings feel rushed, even if nothing urgent is waiting. This rush is not about time, it is about emptiness. The soul is searching for something to fill the space Allah was meant to occupy. It looks for validation, productivity, approval, or distraction, but none of these can soothe a heart created for divine closeness. This is why success can still feel hollow and busy days can still feel lonely. Connection with Allah transforms the ordinary rhythm of waking up. Dua becomes instinctive. Gratitude rises naturally. Even when life is not easy, the heart learns to begin with reliance instead of resistance. Remember, the Prophet taught us that Allah descends in a manner befitting His Majesty in the last part of the night, asking, who is seeking forgiveness? Who is asking? Who is calling? When you wake up aware of that invitation, the morning becomes a meeting point between your weakness and His mercy. This reflection is not meant to judge the heart, but to guide it. Mornings expose what needs attention, not condemnation. When the heart turns back to Allah at the start of the day, it slowly heals the distance it once felt, and in that return, The morning becomes less about surviving the hours ahead and more about walking them with Allah beside you. There is a mercy hidden in the routines you repeat every single morning, even when they feel dull, exhausting, or meaningless. The soul often expects Allah's gentleness to arrive in extraordinary moments, but Allah places His mercy in the ordinary so that you learn to find Him everywhere. Waking up, washing your face, standing, breathing, these are not mechanical acts, they are permissions. You were allowed to wake up again. You were chosen to be given another chance to turn back, to realign, to begin. Routine is not meant to numb the heart. It is meant to stabilize it. When life feels uncertain, Allah anchors you in small, repeatable actions so your soul does not drift into despair. Each morning routine is a quiet reminder that Allah is consistent even when life is not. He sends the sun again. He sends breath again. He sends you back into the world again, not because you are ready, but because His mercy does not wait for your perfection. We often resent routine because we associate it with monotony. But in Islam, repetition carries purification. Every time you perform the same act with awareness, something new opens inside you. Even wudu, repeated day after day, washes more than the body. It gently strips the heart of heaviness you did not realize you were carrying. Allah hides healing in repetition because healing itself is rarely instant. When pain becomes familiar, routine becomes refuge. It keeps you moving when motivation disappears. It protects you from drowning in your thoughts by grounding you in the present moment. This is not accidental. Allah knows that hearts break quietly, and so He sends quiet mercies to meet them. The unseen mercy of routine is that it carries you through seasons you would not survive on emotion alone. Even when your heart feels distant, routine keeps the door open. One sincere moment in a repeated action can soften years of harden. Allah's mercy often enters not with thunder, but with consistency, gently teaching the soul how to trust again. Tawakkul is often misunderstood as something you reach after. You have everything figured out, but in truth, it begins before the world ever asks anything from you. It begins in that quiet space of the morning when your heart has not yet been pulled in 100 directions. Before the demands, before the expectations, before the weight of responsibility settles in, Allah invites you to place your trust in Him while your hands are still empty. When you wake up and immediately feel overwhelmed, it is not because the day is too big, but because your heart has already tried to carry it alone. Tawakkul shifts that burden. It is the moment you acknowledge that you do not own the outcomes of this day, only the sincerity of your effort. Allah says that whoever places their trust in Him, He is enough for them. Enough does not mean the absence of difficulty. It means the presence of support. Beginning the day with tawakkul is a quiet declaration of faith. It is telling your soul, I will move forward, but I will not pretend I am in control. This does not weaken you, it frees you. When you trust Allah early, you stop negotiating your worth with success and failure. You work, you try, you show up, but your heart remains anchored in something greater than results. The Prophet taught us to tie our camel and then trust in Allah. Morning tawakkul is that first knot. It grounds your effort in humility and your planning and surrender. Even when the plan unravels, and it often does, the heart that trusted Allah from the beginning does not collapse. It adjusts, knowing that Allah's wisdom is unfolding beyond what the eyes can see. This early surrender changes the texture of the day. Anxiety loosens its grip. Fear loses its sharpness. Not because problems disappear, but because the heart knows it is not facing them alone. Tawakkul. Before the world demands anything, teaches the soul a powerful truth. You were never meant to carry life by yourself. Sabr is often imagined as something dramatic, reserved for moments of great loss or visible trials. But in reality, it is most often practiced quietly in the ordinary moments of the morning. It is there when you wake up tired but still rise, When your heart feels heavy, but you choose not to complain. When yesterday's pain follows you into today, and you still whisper, Ya Allah, help me. This is the sabr that Allah sees most clearly. The sabr. No one applauds. Morning sabr is not about forcing yourself to feel strong. It is about allowing yourself to feel weak without losing faith. There are mornings when patience looks like simply not giving up on the day before it even begins. When your dua feels fragile and your hope feels thin, but you hold on anyway. This is not small. This is worship. Allah reminds us that He is with those who are patient, not waiting for them at the finish line, but with them in the struggle itself. When you practice sabr in the morning, you are choosing to trust Allah with the hours ahead, even though you do not know how they will unfold. You are saying, I will walk forward, even if my heart is limping. The Prophet taught us that patience is light. Light does not remove darkness instantly, but it allows you to see where to place your next step. Morning sabr gives you just enough light to begin. It teaches the soul that healing does not require rushing, and faith does not require pretending everything is fine. This quiet patience softens the heart over time. It reshapes the way you respond to hardship. When sabr becomes part of your morning, it stops being a reaction to pain and becomes a posture of the soul. Steady, trusting, and rooted in the belief that Allah's mercy is unfolding, even when you cannot yet see it. There is a heaviness that settles in the heart without announcing itself. It does not always come from one great sorrow, but from many unspoken worries, delayed hopes, and silent disappointments. Dhikr in the morning is not meant to erase this weight instantly. It is meant to soften it. When the tongue remembers Allah, the heart is gently reminded that it is not alone in what it carries. Allah says that it is through His remembrance that hearts find rest, not because problems disappear, but because the soul reconnects to its source. Morning dhikr realigns what has become scattered overnight. The mind may still hold concerns, but the heart begins to breathe again. Each repetition is like knocking on a door you thought was far away, only to realize it was always close. Dhikr does not demand emotional strength. It meets you exactly where you are. Whether your voice is steady or trembling, whether your focus drifts or stays, Allah receives it. This is the mercy of remembrance. It is accessible even on the hardest mornings. Sometimes all you can offer is a broken Ya Allah, and that is enough to begin the healing. The Prophet taught us specific remembrances for the morning, not as rituals of habit, but as shields for the soul. They protect the heart from being consumed by what it cannot control. With every remembrance, you release a piece of the burden you were never meant to carry alone. Over time, morning dhikr changes the emotional landscape of the soul. You may not notice it in a single day, but gradually the heart becomes less reactive, less restless. Pain may still visit, but it no longer defines your inner world. Dhikr teaches the soul how to return to peace again and again, not by escaping reality, but by grounding itself in the presence of Allah, whose nearness transforms even the heaviest mornings into spaces of quiet refuge. Divine timing rarely announces itself with clarity. It unfolds slowly, often silently, teaching the heart patience through repetition rather than revelation. In the morning, when you wake up to the same unanswered prayers and the same waiting, it can feel as though nothing is changing. But Allah's work is not always visible in breakthroughs. Sometimes it is hidden in consistency. Every morning you rise, every time you choose faith again, something unseen is being written in your favor. We often expect Allah's timing to arrive with dramatic shifts, but more often it comes through quiet endurance. The discipline of beginning each day with trust, even when results are delayed, reshapes the soul. Allah is not rushing you because He is not worried about what you might miss. What is meant for you will not pass you by. This truth settles into the heart not through one reminder, but through daily return. The waiting itself is part of the preparation. Morning after morning, Allah teaches the soul how to rely without guarantees, how to hope without timelines. This is not cruelty, it is refinement. The heart that learns consistency in faith becomes steady enough to carry what it once begged for. Remember, the Prophet taught us that Allah responds to dua in the best way and at the best time, even when the servant does not recognize it immediately. Consistency reveals trust more than intensity ever could. A single emotional morning does not shape a life, but repeated surrender does. When you choose Allah daily, even while the answer remains unseen, your heart matures. It learns that closeness to Allah is not a reward at the end of waiting, it is the companion through it. In this way, divine timing becomes less about when things change and more about who you become while they do not. Each faithful morning builds a soul that understands that delay is not denial and silence is not absence, but a quiet unfolding guided by a wisdom far greater than what the heart can yet comprehend. At dawn, the soul is exposed. The defenses you build throughout the day have not yet risen, and the heart feels everything more sharply. This vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a door. Allah allows the soul to be most open in the morning so it can receive what it needs before the world hardens it again. In those first moments, the heart speaks honestly, without filters, without performance. This is why worries often surface the moment you wake up. The mind has not yet learned how to suppress them. Regrets, fears, longings, they rise naturally. But this is also why the morning is sacred. Allah meets you in that raw state, not waiting for you to be composed. He does not require strength to listen. He responds to sincerity. The vulnerability of the soul at dawn is an invitation to return. When you turn to Allah before you turn away from yourself, you allow Him to tend to the fragile places. Dua offered in this state carries a different weight because it is not rehearsed. It is felt. Even silence, when directed toward Allah, becomes a form of prayer. The Prophet taught us the virtue of early hours, not as a productivity technique, but as a spiritual opening. This is the time when the unseen feels near, when mercy feels reachable, when the heart is most capable of humility. Pride has not yet woken up, but need has. When the soul is vulnerable and chooses Allah, it learns a powerful lesson. It does not need to be protected from Allah to be accepted by Him. It needs to be brought closer. Morning vulnerability teaches the heart to trust divine gentleness. Instead of armoring yourself against the day, you begin by placing your softness in Allah's care, allowing Him to strengthen you in ways the world never could. Choosing Allah before choosing the world is an act of profound courage that the heart often forgets in the rush of daily life. When the morning begins, the world calls for attention immediately. Tasks, notifications, responsibilities, yet the soul's first allegiance is meant to be to its Creator. This choice is subtle, quiet, and easily overlooked, but it determines the way every hour unfolds. When you turn to Allah first, your perspective shifts. The noise loses its power, the chaos becomes manageable, and the heart finds clarity. Many hearts seek validation, comfort, or control before seeking Allah, and this reverses the natural order. When the world is prioritized, the soul begins the day burdened, chasing fleeting satisfaction and measuring worth by circumstances. But when Allah is chosen first, even ordinary moments become infused with purpose. The heart learns that its needs are met not by accumulation or achievement, but by proximity to the one who created it. The Prophet taught us that the world is transient, but Allah's pleasure is everlasting. By prioritizing Him, the morning becomes a foundation rather than a series of reactions. Dua, gratitude, and remembrance in these early hours anchor the heart before it is pulled into obligations and distractions. Choosing Allah first does not mean ignoring the world. It means approaching the world from a place of strength, centeredness, and trust. Every choice throughout the day will echo the first choice made in the morning. When Allah is your first consideration, patience becomes possible in difficulties. Hope flourishes in delays. and contentment grows in what you have. The heart carries peace, not because the world is kind, but because it knows the one who is. This daily decision, repeated quietly and sincerely, teaches the soul that true fulfillment begins with turning toward Allah, not away from Him. Barakah is a subtle, unseen blessing that transforms not only what we have, but how we experience it. It enters time, work, and even our smallest actions when the heart is aligned with Allah. The morning is the threshold where barakah can either be welcomed or overlooked. Rising with intention, beginning with remembrance, and seeking Allah before the world creates a space for His blessings to flow. Without this alignment, the hours may pass, tasks may be completed, yet a sense of emptiness remains, as though effort has been spent without nourishment for the soul. Barakah does not always increase quantity, often it increases quality. 1 hour of sincere focus and remembrance or dua may bring more benefit than an entire day of distracted effort. The Prophet taught us to start the day with supplications and gratitude, not merely as ritual, but as a means to draw divine blessing into time. This blessing turns ordinary labor into a source of spiritual growth, transforms challenges into lessons, and fills the heart with contentment, even when results are delayed. When the morning is spent in alignment with Allah, every subsequent moment carries His influence. Food, work, relationships, and decisions are all touched by His mercy. The heart notices the subtle ease in burdens, the unexpected solutions, the hidden kind, ness in people, and the patience that grows effortlessly. This is the unseen nature of barakah. It may not always be visible externally, but its presence is felt within in the serenity and clarity of the heart. Barakah requires attention, intention, and sincerity. It cannot be forced or manufactured. It begins with a conscious choice to turn toward Allah at the start of the day, to prioritize Him in thought, word, and action. From there, everything unfolds with divine guidance, revealing that even the smallest morning practices, when rooted in faith, can fill the entire day with His limitless mercy. Healing begins when the heart surrenders the start of the day to Allah. Often, we wake carrying yesterday's wounds, the weight of unmet expectations, or the sting of past mistakes. These burdens cling to the soul and shape the way the day unfolds. When the first moments are spent in turning to Allah, even in the quietest whisper of dua, the heart begins to release what it was never meant to carry alone. This is not instant erasure of pain, but a gentle softening, a realignment with divine mercy that allows the soul to breathe again. Surrendering the morning does not mean passivity. It means acknowledgement. It means saying, Ya Allah, I place this day, this heart, and all its struggles in your care. The Prophet taught that the morning dua protects the believer and guides the day. By starting with Allah, the soul receives guidance before the world presses its demands, offering a shield against despair and frustration. Healing is not just in moments of relief, but in the consistent habit of returning to Him, moment by moment, thought by thought. The heart that begins with surrender gradually learns resilience. It learns to face difficulties without being consumed by them, to endure trials without losing hope, and to find calm in uncertainty. Pain is not denied, BU. It no longer dictates the tone of the day. Every sigh, every whispered remembrance becomes a step toward inner peace. The soul discovers that healing is not a distant event, but a daily process, nurtured by intention, patience, and reliance on Allah's wisdom. This daily surrender transforms mornings into sanctuaries for the heart. The trials of life remain, but the heart carries them differently. It carries them anchored in trust, supported by remembrance, and comforted by the knowledge that Allah's mercy begins with the smallest act of turning to Him at the start of the day. Struggles that greet us in the morning are not punishments, they are invitations. The heart often interprets difficulty as a sign of failure or abandonment, Yet Islam teaches that every test, every discomfort, and every moment of waiting carries a lesson and a hidden mercy. When you wake with tension, worry, or lingering pain, it is not a flaw in your faith. It is an opportunity for it to grow. These early struggles remind the soul that reliance on Allah is not optional, but essential. The quiet challenges of the morning, a restless mind, a heavy heart, or an aching memory, are actually openings for spiritual growth. Allah says that He does not burden a soul beyond what it can bear, yet He allows small burdens to awaken reliance, humility, and patience. When approached with consciousness and faith, these moments become invitations to surrender, to remember, and to align the heart with its true source of peace. The Prophet demonstrated that hardship does not have to break the spirit, it can refine it. Struggles are the soil in which faith is cultivated. When the morning begins with resistance, with frustration or distraction, the heart misses the chance to engage with Allah's wisdom. But when even the smallest effort is made to turn to Him, a whispered dua, a moment of gratitude, a brief remembrance, the struggle transforms into a conduit for mercy. Mornings are not meant to be easy, they are meant to shape the soul. They are reminders that life is not always in our control, but our hearts can be. By choosing awareness and connection with Allah at the start, even the most ordinary or difficult mornings become sacred. Each struggle becomes a quiet teacher, each discomfort a doorway to understanding, and each breath a chance to practice reliance, patience, and trust in the one who holds all affairs in perfect wisdom. Returning to Allah daily before returning to people is a practice that strengthens the soul in ways nothing else can. When the morning begins, the world immediately makes demands. Family, work, responsibilities, expectations. The heart rushes to meet them, often carrying yesterday's fatigue or yesterday's pain. But Islam teaches that the heart is meant to be nurtured first, to reconnect with its Creator before it gives to anyone else. When you turn to Allah before you turn to the world, your presence becomes full, your patience deeper, and your actions infused with sincerity. The Prophet taught that the believer who remembers Allah frequently carries light in their heart. This light is not only for personal comfort, it is what allows you to navigate the challenges of others with compassion, wisdom, and steadiness. A heart anchored in Allah does not crumble under the demands of people because it is already supported by the one who never fails. Returning to Allah first is a way of filling your inner vessel so that when you interact with the world, you are not drained or dependent on external validation. Morning connection with Allah also creates perspective. It reminds you that human interactions are imperfect, while divine guidance is perfect. It allows the soul to give generously without expectation, to respond calmly without reacting hastily, and to forgive more easily because it has tasted divine mercy first. The day begins not as a battlefield of frustrations, but as an opportunity to reflect Allah's mercy through your own conduct. By choosing Allah before people, the heart learns balance. It honors its own needs without selfishness and honors the needs of others without losing itself. Daily return to Allah, especially at the start of the day, becomes a spiritual anchor. It teaches the soul that true strength, peace, and guidance flow from Him first. And only then can the heart move gracefully into the world with clarity, patience, and purpose. Every morning carries a choice far greater than we often realize. It is not just the start of a day, but the shaping of a soul, the setting of a compass for the hours ahead. When you begin with Allah, in remembrance, in intention, in surrender, you plant seeds of barakah, patience, and trust that will grow quietly throughout your day. The world may demand, distract, or overwhelm, but a heart anchored in the divine remains unshaken. Let each morning be a conscious return, a renewal of faith, and a gentle reminder that your life is not shaped by circumstances, but by the one who holds all things in His perfect wisdom. Begin with Allah, and everything else will find its rightful place.